Welcome to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Runyen from Yuba City PD. He has 22 years experience in law enforcement. Really looking forward to having him on the show. So welcome, Chief Runyen. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Of course. 22 years. That is a long time to be in this career. What made you choose law enforcement?
Well, I did grow up in a law enforcement family, so I had an idea of what it was like, although maybe not really until you get on the job. That's when you really figure it out. But I think going through high school and college, I had a lot of jobs just throughout along the way, and really got to figure out what I didn't like.
Mm.
And I actually got into wildland firefighting in college, and I just loved being outside. So I knew that at least that direction was the way I wanted to go, was being outside, being active. That's a career I would enjoy. I don't know. I got towards the end of my college career and I go, you know what? I might just do law enforcement. I have an idea what it's like with my family. And I know that, again, I like to be busy and outdoors, not behind a desk. So anyways, I jumped into it and it worked out and I absolutely love it once I started.
Did your family teach you any lessons, or did they give you any words of wisdom entering into the same career path that they were in?
Yeah, I mean, my dad gave me a lot over the years, especially once I went that route. He retired as a captain with LAPD, and he worked a lot of assignments over the years and through the '90s, through the Rodney King and era and things like that. So certainly a lot of lessons along the way, too many to recall, and still to this day. I mean, he's actually turns 80 this month and retired. I still call him with things every now and then and have him weigh in on whatever it is I'm dealing with.
Yeah. What an incredible resource to have. Someone who has experience and that perspective on the job, and maybe someone who's not directly in it with you, has the perspective, but it's also kind of now at least more of an outside perspective too. I think that that's great.
Yes, and obviously trust and being able to ask anything. It's
Hmm.
just another resource that you can just go with any issue, and certainly because we don't. I live 8 hours apart from him now, so he doesn't know we see anyone here. I mean, some of the people in that apartment, but it's usually when I'm bringing things up, it's just a total outside perspective, right? Just
Right.
based on their experience and hey, what would you do here?
Yeah. No, I love that. When you and I talked offline, there was something that you said that struck me, and I wanted to ask you about it because you have been with your wife now for over 25 years. You've been married for 20 years. I am divorced, and I know that there are a lot of people within the first responder profession that go through divorce. It's, a higher divorce rate within this career path. What is the secret to a long and successful marriage, especially in law enforcement?
Well, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to the spouse, number one. As yeah, this job is stressful. And then when in our case, we were together before this career. And then when you get into the career, it changes you, right? And I think to any marriage, I think the success or part of it is growing and changing together. You
Mm.
grow together, you're a little bit different than you were 25 years ago, but our relationship now is stronger than it was when we started. But to her credit, what I would say is, I was no different than most officers where sometimes you talk a lot about the job, or when you're around your cop friends, you talk a lot about the job, and then you come home and she wants to hear things. You're like, no, I don't want to talk about it, or it's just not the same if they're not in the line of work. But again, to her credit, I think she early on took interest in reading a few books of what it's like being married to a first responder and kind of understanding our thought process. So a lot of credit to her for understanding that. And at some point with me, as you go through your career, it's a roller coaster. Not to mention just the career, but life in general. There's ups and downs.
Yeah.
And getting through those things together, I think is the key, not separate. Always keeping that line of communication, recognizing when you're off course. You can say mostly in my case, it was, she was always been the steady one. And, um, having kids and then raising kids, she was more the primary person. She still worked and still does to this day. But I give a lot of credit to her and taking time to learn about our career. And what I would encourage, other people in this line of work is get them involved early on. Get them to know some of the people at your department. I do believe there's some value in keeping work and private life separate, but at times it should mingle. They should know the people you work with.
Yeah.
She should know what it is I do. And that's gonna, if you introduce your spouse early on to the family that you have outside of your home, because you spend a lot of time here, I think it's going to go a long ways. And giving them a few resources, have them read, Kevin Gilmartin's book. She read it. It was a great book. That's eye opening for any officer to read. But then if a spouse reads it, they might start to understand why you are at certain times. Call you out on it. Get out of the magic chair.
I appreciate the mentality of it being a team, because I do think that so often, and I obviously have personal experience with this too, but so often it becomes these opposing sides, instead of like it's us against the world, it's us against all the challenges that we're going to get through it together as a united front and as a team. And it becomes this like us against each other type mentality. And so I really do appreciate that. Hey, we're a team. How can we get through this together, the peaks and the valleys? Because like you said, there's always going to be ebbs and flows of life. And sometimes, if it's a team mentality, it's not going to be 50-50 all the time, right? Like sometimes one of your teammates is going to be down and you got to pick them up, and vice versa, and knowing that you can lean on each other in those times and you can meet each other. I also, I really appreciate the perspective of you saying, hey, I give a lot of credit to the efforts that my spouse put into this. Because I think a lot of the focus is always on the officer or, the person who's in law enforcement of like, what can you do? But again, if it's a team mentality, then how can we also bring training and resources to the family members so that they can have more empathy? And that was what I was hearing is like, how can you have a better understanding for each other, which is the empathy part of it, of understanding what you're going through to create a stronger bond.
Right. I totally agree. And even here at the department, we've had some efforts to involve spouses on our wellness committee. And they have like a little Facebook group of spouses so that they can reach out to one another. And it's not going to get back to any one of us if there's conversations had outside the building. That's how they get through those things, because odds are, especially for someone who's been in this career a long time, their relationship has gone through that.
Yeah.
Or something similar to it. Right?
I mean, essentially you're creating a spouse peer support team.
Correct. We're trying to get that, make sure those resources are available, and they may not cling to it right away. That's fine. But hopefully in time they get to know a few spouses and you might find some similarities and commonalities with one another.
Yeah. I think that the worst thing that we can do, and I think what we tend to do, is isolate, right? And I think if you feel like you're alone and there's no one else who can relate to you and your experience and what you're going through, then that makes things so much harder. And when you can have the message to not just your team organizationally, but also their families of like, you are not alone in this. There are other people in your network. We're going to connect you with those resources and those people so that if and when you need these resources, you have them and you don't feel like you are on an island by yourself having to deal with it alone.
I totally agree. Again, I've had my ups and downs. Well, I can't sit here and tell you I've had, super stressful event in and of itself that's caused major issues for me, but I do read a lot about it, and what I do understand is exactly what you're saying. Is a lot of people just feel like there's no one else who knows what I'm going through, which is not true. There's a lot of people out there that can relate to some of the experiences you've had and help you get through those things.
Yeah. And I've had those experiences in my life too. I think anyone who's listening to this can relate to that like feeling of like not only feeling alone, but I like for me at least, like I felt like so resentful of that. Like I felt like it hardened me where I was like, well, no one understands what I'm going through. And so, I'm just going to be angry at everything because I feel like no one will get it. And so I don't want to talk to anybody because no one will get it anyway. And so like that was my perspective when I was going through some of my hardest times. And so I think it's messaging, but then it's also like, how do you create that culture where it's safe to talk about it too, because I think, if you don't have that piece of it, then people don't feel like even if they know that they have the resources, they won't feel like they can come forward and actually utilize them or talk to people about it.
I agree. The culture is key to have that. We've always had a lot of resources around here, but I think over the last several years, we've really pushed it and tried to, again, like you said, change that culture to where it's okay to reach out, use your peer support, um, as an example, we've established counseling services that will pay for up to so many sessions per year per employee. And we know it's getting used. We don't know who's using it the way we set it up, which is what you want. But the fact that we're paying a bill every month is a good thing. That means people are getting the resources they need because we know there's ups and downs. And we want to make sure they're using those things. There's a few things we've explored that we found out people aren't using. So, all right, let's shift gears and find something that they are going to use that's going to help them.
Yeah. And what were the things? I'm just curious because we know that leaders also need wellness. Was there anything that you did for your own personal wellness that has helped you throughout your 22 years?
Absolutely. I'd say one of my, and I'll share some of my struggles was transitioning
Yeah.
from, a supervisor to manager. It's a tough transition. And most people will tell you that you go from being more hands-on to the work to not, to more doing things behind the scenes. So it creates a different kind of stress. That's all I can really say. So what I had to start establishing, which I'd say wasn't the best at, was more consistent, healthy habits.
Mm.
Um, I always worked out, which was a good thing. So I had that going for me, but you need more than that. You have to establish good routines with your diet. There's good routines with, you know, alcohol as an example. Some people, I'm not going to say the people that don't drink anything, that I respect that. That's awesome. If you choose to drink a little, again, you got to have healthy habits there. It shouldn't be something you do every night, um, and establishing some boundaries that are healthy with those kinds of things. I would say other things I started doing. I went back to school and got my master's
Mhm.
degree. Just it's that continual learning, and after I achieved that, it was like, all right, I'll just keep reading and keep reading. So I've been reading far more in the last 7, 8 years than I ever did prior to that, besides police reports and things. But kind of try to have that mentality of getting better every day. Just try to improve everything you can. You're going to make mistakes along the way, learning to be okay with those mistakes and just say, well, I just got to do better. Try to get better. No one's perfect. We've all made mistakes in our career. But, change your mentality. Not letting the things, and I would say this too, not letting things that you can't control ruin your day and upset the person you are versus the things you can control. And you kind of have to have that perspective. If you start to focus on those things, the things you can control, it's just gradual progress, and those healthy
Mhm.
habits coupled with that build that resilience to get through it.
I really like that, like gradual progress. And I agree with you. I think that, and maybe it's human nature, or maybe this is just my own personal experience. Anytime I've tried to just go like full speed, pedal to the floor with anything. I burn out so fast. It's not something that I can maintain over time. And I think that if we can instead try to create that consistency, like you said, and have like small incremental steps over time, it's going to create the longest and most lasting impact. And sometimes, I think that's hard for people to do, especially like if you have a type A personality where you're like, I'm just going to go full on, but I do agree. I think like slow and steady wins the race. And I love that you incorporated education as a part of wellness. Something that brought you fulfillment was to continue to develop yourself and to learn and to grow. And I think that's something that I've never heard anyone say as like that was a part of like how I maintained my wellness. And I think it's great because it's not a one size fits all. And I think if we're all going to say that and recognize it, we have to be open to a lot of different things. And I think ultimately it's what makes you feel good. What brings you that like quote unquote fulfillment in your life? And when you're looking at different areas of wellness, like what is going to make you feel physically good? What is going to make you feel mentally good, emotionally good? How can we put in place those resources so that you feel better and for a long period of time? So I appreciate that you said education. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And you have to try a lot of things too. And I was guilty of it too. When, the type A, full speed ahead when I was younger, which served me well at that time. But long term, if I was the same I was 15 years ago, who knows where I'd be. Learning to slow things down a little, and taking that time away from here to keep yourself going. Again, I talked about the healthy habits, but having those routines, I don't think that by any means you have to squeeze them in. It's always tough, right? Especially with kids, career. But it's not selfish to take time away to better yourself because you're better for your organization and you're better for your family. So you have to build those in and again, communicate those with your spouse. My wife knows there's certain things I'm like, I gotta go do this, but these are priorities for me and she knows in the end that it makes me better.
Yep. Well, and that's the word right there is priority, right? Is it a priority? And if it's a priority, then you find the time. I think that so often everyone, and I do it too, like falls back on like, I don't have the time. We have the time, but it's the reprioritization of the time. And sometimes you can't do everything all at once, right? Sometimes like some things have to give and you have to readjust certain things. And I had this realization one day where I was like scrolling on Instagram for like an hour. And I like looked up and realized, like, I think like a lot of people can relate to that, right? It's like called the doom scroll or whatever. And like you like wake up and you're like, oh no, like a whole hour of my life is gone. And did I benefit from that? Like, do I feel more fulfilled? Do I feel better mentally? Do I feel better physically? And my answer to that was no. Like, I feel like I just numbed out for an hour. I watched a bunch of trash. Like, it was not like beneficial. It wasn't like I watched a really cool, like, podcast or whatever. Like, it was just all trash. And then I was like, wow, okay, I could have used that time to XYZ. That could have been a time to meal prep. That could have been a time to go to the gym. That could have been a time to read a book or whatever it is that's like your thing. And so I think sometimes we just have to zoom out a little bit and recognize, okay, where are the like inefficiencies in our schedule where maybe we're not utilizing it to the best of our abilities. And sometimes if you want to doom scroll or you want to watch Netflix or whatever, that's okay too. But I think having this like, I don't have time, it's really not that. It's that it's not a priority at that time. And so I think that trying to figure out what works for you. I had someone the other day that told me that they really like DIY projects. Like it was another chief and he was like, I just like DIY. It's like, I like to do stuff in the yard. I like to do all these things. And then I'll sit on my patio with a cold beverage and like look at the fruits of my labor. And I love it. It's like, that brings me joy. And then I had someone else that was like, I really like knitting. Like it's become my thing. And it's like very like meditative and I'm like super mindful and in the moment or whatever. So finding that thing that makes you feel good and is a part of your wellness rather than that escaping or avoiding or numbing. And I know you had mentioned alcohol as being kind of one of those like numbing, avoidant,
Mhm.
tendencies.
Right. I totally agree with you. You have to zoom out, and I think is a good way to look at it and look at your schedule and go, how can I fit it all in? Because we're all busy.
Yep.
But yeah, you're right. You can look on your phone nowadays and they'll tell you how much screen time you've had. And that's probably a good indication that, okay, maybe I shouldn't do so much of that. There's like 5 hours here that I could have had back.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well,
No,
and
I
sometimes it's okay
sure.
too to turn your brain off completely to something numb like that, but not
Yeah.
to the extent, right, that you're not getting things done or making yourself better. So,
I think the one indicator that's been really helpful for me, and I don't know if you can relate to this or if anyone who's listening can relate to this, but I had to ask myself, why am I doing these things? And so you said this earlier about alcohol, and you're like, okay, like if you like to enjoy a drink every once in a while, totally okay. Like you can do that. But if you're drinking every night, maybe it's something to look at. And so I had this conversation with someone else recently where they were talking about being addicted to work. Like they were saying, like, I work so much that I'm questioning, is this me avoiding home life or is it because I really love my job? And I think that what we have to do, it's again like zooming out. I think we have to understand why we're doing certain things, why we have these behaviors. If I am drinking every night and I'm getting wasted every night because I don't want to deal with something and I'm actually like escaping and avoiding something, then that's not good. That's an unhealthy coping mechanism. If I am working all the time because I'm avoiding being home or dealing with life, or because I don't want to like slow down because I don't want to think about the stuff that I don't want to think about, right?
right.
Then maybe that's not the best. But if you're having a drink like every once in a while, socially, or you're having a glass of wine with your wife and that's something that you guys are enjoying doing over dinner and it's not because of avoiding, it's because like you actually enjoy to do that, then I think that's okay. And if you are working a lot because you really love your job, but then you're also prioritizing your home stuff, I think that that's okay too. So I think sometimes you have to understand, why am I doing these things? Is it for a good reason or an unhealthy reason?
I would agree. Yeah. That balance too, the 7 day working. I mean, earlier in my career, I did work, assignments, audits, particularly detectives, where you get on these runs where you're just non 12 hours a day for multiple days in a row. And that is what it is. Sometimes you can't avoid it in those jobs and those assignments, but usually there's things slow down and you got to get back on those track on those habits. Or
Yeah.
even during those busy days, you'd have to find time to sneak in the workout, do something. The worst thing you could do on a 7 day run of work of 12-hour days is go home and have 2 beers go to bed. That's probably not the best option. Try to You got to try to keep yourself healthy through that stretch of work. It's going to happen in this. It's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. I wanted to talk about this concept of lifetime fitness. What does that look like for you and your organization? What is lifetime fitness?
So, I mean, for me personally, I'll start there, and then I guess we'll kind of get into the organization. But
Yeah.
fortunately, I played sports through high school, and just learned that value of working out. That always carried with me. I had an interest in it, so I really got into it through late high school and into college. And then when you start this career, there actually is a lifetime fitness class in California, the
Hmm.
academy. So they're giving you all the information. It's just whether you choose to hopefully intake it and realize this really is one of the important things in our career. So how do we incorporate that here? And we do have a gym on site. We've spent quite a bit of money over the years upgrading it, and just making it better and better to where it's basically got everything you could get at a different or a bigger facility with a membership, obviously.
Yeah.
So that's been the idea, is to make this a self-sufficient gym here that suits all our needs. But then, the key to that is how do we make it? I want to make sure it's accessible to people. By that, I mean like, hey, let's see, we've added a workout hour in everyone in the buildings, whether professional staff or sworn, you get a workout hour. Now, you don't always get it because that's their job, right? Sometimes you're busy and can't get it. But we tried to make it to where they can break away from their assignment, go into the gym, work out. I equated it to kind of like the firefighters. The firefighters work out on duty, but what do? They got the radios on, they're ready to go. Should they get cut short? Okay. Yep. But they're still getting it in is the point. And we do see a lot of time in the gym after work too, which is good. There's nothing better than getting a workout in at the end. So that's, the thing we're trying to push around here is just that everyone do something. It doesn't, you don't have to be in there slamming weights around. There's many ways to do it, but have that mentality that this is what's going to keep you healthy throughout life. Even the time when times are good, keep working out, because when times get rough, then that's, that outlet will be there for you, and you'll hopefully be in a healthier position to withstand whatever rough times you're going through.
Yeah. Well, and, I've always, because I'm like you, like I was always really active when I was younger. And I think that it's so much easier to stay fit than it is to get fit. And I've also been in that position where like maybe I did let things slip a little bit and I've had to like get back into things. And it is so much harder to get back into things. But I think it's important for anyone to remember, like, if you did let things slide and maybe you're not at the level that you want to be. I don't want to say that you used to be, because I think that that is really detrimental, where you're like comparing, like if I compared my 35-year-old body to my 25-year-old body, it's a losing game. I'm different now in my age than I was when I was younger. And so I think instead of comparing to how you used to be, just are you feeling how you want to feel now in this season of your life and your career? And if you're not there, to give yourself grace, and it goes back to what we said before, small steps over time, just create that consistency, and do not wait for motivation, because motivation is fleeting. Like one day you're going to wake up and you're going to feel good and want to do it, and the next day you're not, but you should do it every day if you can, something.
I totally agree. And there's times work out with my kids now, they're teenagers. So some days you're just not going to feel like it. But the fact that you went to the gym, you got something done, you're better off than you were just sitting at home.
Yeah.
You just got to push through those days. And your goals, like you said, you can't compare. I'm 45 now. I can't compare myself to 25. Every now and then I try to do something. I ain't that young anymore. I can't run as fast, but hey, I could still go out there and do these things. I'm not going to ever stop doing them. I just can't ever feel like, I used to. Well, let's be realistic. Come on.
Yeah, it's humbling for sure when you try to do something. I remember, this was a long time ago. This is not recently, but I remember a long time ago, I was like, I can still do a back handspring like I used to when I was like in high school, and I was probably like 25 at the time. And it hurt a lot worse than it did when I was younger. And so I think that sometimes it's to your detriment. Like if you're going to try to push yourself, especially right out the gate, if you haven't done something for a while, I think it's sometimes good to like be a little humble and like just start where you are now. Don't worry about where you used to be. And just like you said, one foot in front of the other. I heard something, I want to get your opinion on this. I heard something that said fitness is the first line of de-escalation. Do you think that there's some truth to that?
Absolutely. It gives you, when you're in good shape, you have confidence. There's just a different feeling, and physically, you can feel it. And that's certainly one of the reasons we encourage it with officers in particular, is there's a level of confidence when you're in good shape, or if you do a little bit of training on the side, whether it's nowadays jiu-jitsu is one of the more common ones. If you just have some proficiency, you don't have to be an expert at it. It gives you a level of confidence, which to me equates to just it takes away that maybe that chip on your shoulder that you can have at times. Like, I don't need to prove myself, and therefore it just makes it easier to talk this individual down than to try to prove myself to them. Well, I have confidence in what I'm doing, so you talk calmer to people, and I think it absolutely translates. What you're saying.
I like that you said talk calmer to people too, because I do think that physical and mental are so closely related. And when you feel better physically, you feel better mentally. And then you're more likely to be able to make better decisions and communicate better because you feel better physically and mentally. And then I also think that, if you look good and you look fit and you walk up to someone, like we already know, like through conversations that I've had, that they're sizing you up, right? They're going to look you up and down and be like, can I run away from this person or can I take this person? And so if you can present yourself with that confidence, you feel good physically, mentally, then maybe the person on the other end is also seeing those things and like, maybe I won't challenge this person.
Yeah, a calm confidence. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, that's always their choice what they choose to do. But we can certainly test that there's many times that they mentally choose not to because they go, yeah, this is not gonna not gonna test this person.
Yeah, for sure. What do you think is the secret to getting people to prioritize wellness for themselves? This is a conversation that I have a lot, and it's that like self accountability of people actually taking action for themselves. What is the secret?
I think there's a couple things like I kind of mentioned with having services that no one's using, right? Think of it in that way. Well, if we have that culture here and hopefully, all our leadership is leading by that example, that's what you're hoping for is to just by the culture they're in, that hopefully they're going to try something. And eventually, again, like I've had conversations with people, I'm just doing something. Well, even if you just go, I'm a big fan of just going and walking. I do that too on top of cardio and or weights. It's getting your body to do something, and then it starts there. So it's we have in our dispatches example, we have a walking treadmill in there. We have a little bike that they can sit on. We've encouraged all those types of things to just get people to try something, and it's starting to, I think, take shape. But again, I think it's your culture, and if your leadership is doing it well, then hopefully they're more likely to do it as well. See the
Yeah.
benefits of it.
I like the idea of leading by example. There's been so many times in my life where like I've tried to force someone to do something because it was important to me or I thought it was good for them. And it never worked in my benefit. I always got like pushback from that. But when I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do this myself and I'm going to like prioritize that, then people see you doing that and then they want to emulate that. Right. And so if we're like, oh, well, like, and I don't think it has to be like a specific leadership title. I think that there are a lot of people who that can be informal leaders too, right? And so if you are a leader within your organization and you are prioritizing your wellness and people are looking up to you and they really value you and respect you and they think that like you do a good job, then they're going to want to emulate that too. And so it's kind of that like snowball effect that happens by leading through example.
Right. I totally agree. You get it at all levels of your organization, hopefully, is your goal. Informal leadership's a huge thing. Yeah, they may not have the title, but they're leaders within the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And a good example, we have a lot of younger officers here now, and they're constantly in the gym. So that culture is really there at with the younger generation, which is great. You just want to keep that going and support it, show them that we're also doing it as well.
I want to kind of figure out how I want to word this because one of the things that I've heard a lot of is, it's sometimes harder to get some leadership on board. Some people maybe who've been with the organization a long time who maybe aren't receptive to certain things. How do you get buy-in from leadership, maybe who have the title, and how, or do you maybe consider that like when you're thinking about promotions and bringing people up in the ranks, is that something that is a conversation, or do you find that it was just really easy for you to get everyone, kind of on board with things?
Well, I'll tack one of those questions first. So, like, promoting people is a good example. want you to be part of what we're trying to build here. So
Yeah.
we try to make that very open. That shouldn't be something on test day you figure out. We kind of have this mentality of every day is a job. If you want to go places, be very upfront like how you get there. It's competitive. So, you can't really fake, as an example, prioritizing wellness. I don't think you can do that.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at candidates, sure, that's a piece of things that we're looking at. So are you promoting the things that as an organization I want to promote? So yeah, we're looking for those types of things. And again, the wellness category is very broad, right? There's more than just working out. It's not just that.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I think. And as far as, I'd say right now we're kind of a young organization. So, I mean, we don't really have a lot of, I don't want to say lack of buy-in at all levels at this moment. Everyone I think understands it. Most of our admin staff are in the gym every day or try to be. So that's kind of there for us. We're fortunate in that aspect, but again, moving forward, it's just this has got to be a priority for us. And I'm seeing great ideas come up from officers and from new sergeants and things like that in that realm. Don't just focus on working out. Focus on everything that there is out there and bring as many things as you can to the table. It's going to help people.
Yeah. And, we talked about this earlier because I really do love talking to California agencies because, I walk into your departments and there is so much that you guys do and, almost have like full blown spas with, massage chairs and saunas and cold plunge and all the things. And I know that you have a variety of different things outside of your gym and your workout on duty opportunities. Are you able to maybe highlight some of the top things that you have done that have been successful? And then any advice that you would have to other leaders who maybe aren't in California and don't have a robust wellness program yet, but they're looking to build something?
Yeah. So, like I said, the gym itself is a great piece. We added the cold plunge and sauna, like a lot of others have. Sauna gets a ton of use.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that. Cold plunge a little less, but I get it. Some people just don't cold water. That's just not their thing. Me, I'm a huge fan of it. So those have been great components. The counseling services, I said, we know it's getting used. That's great, and it appears to be it's very well known, and it's very and they know that we don't know. We just know it's getting used. So that's what matters. Peer support program has gotten very robust, I guess would be the word for it, and getting them the training and getting everyone knowing who those members are has helped. As far as getting it started, I think, yeah, we're a little fortunate here. We had some grant money. Well, every agency in California got I think it's 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that certainly helped. But even prior to that, we were starting to go down that route. I'd say the gym has always been here. But I think getting started is just like anything. You got to start somewhere. It doesn't have to be a huge step. Start with what you can do. There's a lot of things you can do, small things to get things going. Seems like most agencies, again, I can't speak for outside California, probably have some kind of a gym, something. Start there. I mean, and then allow access to it. That's your next step. You kind of get those things rolling. I think things will start to move. If you get the professional staff, are you allowing them to do it? They have stress too. Are we allowing them to take maybe 30 minutes within the day to go walk, whatever, or hit the gym if they want? I've said time and time again, even when we're busy, I think someone that gets 30 minutes a day to work out, let's just call it a 4-day work week, and they worked out for 30 minutes a day 4 times, or just walked. They're going to be more productive probably than if you didn't give it to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe the work's there, but that little break that they got to go clear their head for 30 minutes, they're going to come back probably more productive than they were had they just been sitting there for 4 10-hour days and not gotten out. So provide the opportunities.
Thank you. And then in the context of wellness, what words of wisdom would you share with the younger officer? Someone who's just starting out in this career, maybe something you wish you would have known earlier or something that's helped you along the way?
Uh, yeah, so I think I talked about it, and I'll mention again, but the healthy habits, and I think that builds resilience. Yes, I had the workout piece down, but there were so many other things I wasn't doing. And I think in time it just catches up. That's kind of what happened with me. It was like, hey, I just truly remember thinking this, 5, 6 years ago. I don't know that I'm like, I'm not going to make it through this career if I don't change some things.
Mm.
Um, and what it is different for everybody, right? Things I added to help myself along the way has made a big difference to now they're pieces that I absolutely want to do and have to do. And, I'll just give a good example is Fridays are usually my day off, and my kids are usually in school. My wife's working, so I go to the gym, do my cardio, and that's when I get the cold plunge right after, and then get a hot tub, and it just relaxes me. Listen to a podcast while I'm doing it, and I come out of that feeling so refreshed to start my weekend. Um, so my wife kind of laughs at it, but she knows how important that Friday is for me because again,
Yeah.
it's that healthy habit I created. That can really relax me even if it's a stressful week or I know I got a lot of things ahead of me. Um, so if I again younger, starting over, create some of those habits. Again, try to expand yourself, look broader than just working out because that's all I did. I would have never done yoga 20 years ago. Now I'm like, absolutely, I'd do it. That's just an example. There's plenty of examples I gave you, things I'm like way open to that I never was back in the day that allows you to clear your mind, walking, things like that. So the healthy habits, I'd say. And then again, I know I touched on it earlier, but I think when you're young in this career, there's, certainly when you get to, where I'm at in the organization now, you realize how much of the big picture it is you're in charge of here and how many things matter. Um, but I think a lesson I did learn along the way was again, things you can control and not control. I think as I'll speak for myself, younger, you get caught in the emotion of things. Maybe it was within your shift and you're not happy with something that's going on in the organization. And really, at the end of the day, you got to realize you have very little control over some of these things, but some things you do. And losing sleep, losing stress, getting emotionally worked up over things that are beyond your control, that you're going to drive yourself nuts. Whereas focusing on things you can control, and if it's something within the organization, we certainly try to be open here. And I like the communication from top to bottom to work really well. If you guys have some great idea to fix a problem that I don't know about, then please make sure it gets up here. We'll consider it. And my job is to at least consider it. And then if it can't be done or can't be done in the way that maybe they think is to give them a reason why. And, that's where they have to be okay with it is in the control thing. Like, hey, that's beyond something you can change at that level. And even there's plenty of things at my level that I can't control. There's so much, you can only work with the things can. If you can kind of get that mentality early on, I think you're going to be a lot better off because you're not going to hit those frustration periods where you think, you mentioned earlier, the us versus them, like we're all trying to solve this problem together. Yeah. So let's do that and not get caught up in the emotion of things that are just beyond our control.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your words of wisdom. Thank you for trusting me. And, thank you for everyone who's listening. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Of course. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay.